Hi there, I'm Simon. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the guide, please do me a favour and like the video and subscribe to the channel if you find it useful. I hope to be able to produce much more content going forward, and this would really help me to do this. Homeowners are allowed to convert their roof spaces under what is called Permitted Development Rights, or PD rights for short. Now, most homes in the UK have these rights, but there are some situations where your property may not have all of these. We'll cover these later in the video. Here we have our typical semi-detached property, and we'll assume that PD rights for this property are intact. In this example, the plot, or the curtilage in planning speak, is defined by the fences surrounding the front and rear gardens. To the front, it faces the road, and therefore the front is known as the principal elevation. If your house is on a corner plot, you may have two principal elevations, as these are generally the sides of the house which face the road. On the roof of the front elevation, dormer projections are not allowed. Only roof lights that project up to 15 cm or 150 mm beyond the roof surface can be installed. Most common types of roof windows conform to this, but it's best to check with the manufacturer's details. Let's spin round to the back of the property and see what we can do to the rear and side elevations of the house. Here you can install one or multiple dormer projections to increase the available space within the roof. Dormers must not project higher than the highest point of the existing roof. The new internal volume of the dormer or dormers combined cannot exceed 50 cubic metres for a semi-detached or detached house, or 40 cubic metres for a terraced house, including end of terrace. The dormer must also be constructed with a minimum of 20 cm or 200 mm back from the eaves or gutter line of the roof, with none of its faces being outside the line of the existing walls below. This does not include overhanging gutters, fascias or tile of the dormer itself. A new dormer extension can also be located on the side of the house or the rear and the side of the house. Any windows in the side must be frosted glass and must open at high level if it needs to have an opening casement. Dormers can generally be constructed on the roofs of previous extensions, but the total of both new and old dormers must not exceed the volumes just mentioned. It's also worth checking any planning permission the extension may have been built with, in case PD rights were removed as a condition. A hip-to-gable extension is where the existing roof shape is altered by building the side wall of the house up to an apex. This type of roof extension can often look a little bit more natural, but it is still subject to the same 40 or 50 cubic metre limit on volume as dormer extensions. Lastly, materials for any roof extension must match the existing, and this includes window frames. Most dormer extensions are clad in the same finish as the roof, so most commonly clay or slate tiles. Due to the weight, it's probably unfeasible to match with concrete tiles, and technically timber cladding would not comply if there's currently no timber cladding on the original house. This can be a bit of a grey area, so it's best to seek advice from the local planning department, and we'll discuss this later in the video. Most homes in the UK have permitted development rights, but there are some instances where your property may not have these. These are Article 4 direction areas. These are areas where the local authority have put in planning controls to protect the character of an area, and an example of this would be a conservation area. Listed buildings. Buildings in areas of outstanding natural beauty. Buildings in national parks. Buildings in World Heritage Sites. And lastly, buildings where the PD rights may have fully or partially been removed as a condition of their planning permission. This can include some new, larger housing estates, so if you live in a relatively new property, it's definitely worth checking the planning permission with the house builder. Also bear in mind that your house may have already used some of its permitted development rights with previous extensions. Even changes made with planning permission could have used your PD rights. To define what is a previous extension, we have to compare the existing house to what is termed the original house, and this is the house either as it was first built, or in the case of an older house, as it was on the 1st of July 1948. So you can see it's really possible to achieve a lot of space under permitted development rights. However, there are a lot of rules to consider, and we've not been able to cover absolutely all of the guidance. This is only designed to be a rough guide and does not constitute legal advice. You should consult an expert planner or architect before commencing your own project. Also, I've shown you a relatively simple house, and as we all know, they often aren't like this in the real world. You'll probably also need some advice on aspects such as the Party Wall Act and of course building regulations. One thing most experts will advise is to apply for what is called a certificate of lawfulness before you start, and it's a request to the local authority to confirm what you want to do is actually permitted development. Now, requesting this might seem to defeat the whole point of PD rights, but if a proposal is PD, they cannot refuse it, and it certainly does give you a peace of mind. It's also a very useful piece of paper to have when you come to sell your house and the buyer's solicitor is looking at the work that has been carried out. If you found this information useful, then please let me know by liking the video and pressing the subscribe button. This is one in a series of videos about permitted development, but please also don't forget to check out the other content on my channel. See you next time.